Can you earn a living making comic books? Yes. Is it easy? No. I am going to talk about some of the ways you can earn a living making comic books, and these may not have been ideas that you have thought of or even considered, or maybe even ideas that you might not want to do, but I'm going to talk about them anyway. Greetings, people of the internet. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. Welcome, mad creators, to the underground laboratory where we create robots, alien zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. And right now, live, there is a Kickstarter going on. Maybe you've heard of it. It is the Werewolves and Unicorns. It's the 100 Days of Making Comics Anthology, Werewolves and Unicorns, and Other Mythical Creatures. Like I said, it is live right now on Kickstarter. I will put a link in the description. You definitely want to check it out. This is a project that I've been working on. This stuff back here is part of that. I'm going to show you some of the process of me coloring the cover to that comic book. Plus, you know, I also did a 4-page story in the book, and I'm writing a foreword for it and all that stuff. So heavily involved in it. It's a project that I am really passionate about, and I want to talk a little bit about that. But I want to talk about money in comics, because right now, with this Kickstarter going on, I mean, we're all going to be rich. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Well, with comics, it's not a lot of people get rich making comics. There are a few, and more power to them, and it'd be nice to be one of those people. But typically, we do it for the love of the game. But I still think that people should be paid, and paid pretty decently, for their talents in creating comics. So I want to talk about some of the ways that I do, some of the non-traditional ways, how I have made a living making comics. Not exactly what you might have heard or want to hear, but they are ways that the routes that you can go that aren't the traditional, you know, work for the big comic book companies. But we'll talk a little bit about that too, and you know how it might be possible to do that as well. But so anyway, we're just going to talk all about that. But the main thing, again, I want to talk about is the Werewolves and Unicorns Anthology. I want you to really consider, if you haven't backed it, just check it out, look it over. There is some awesome stories, awesome art from 27 other creators plus myself, and right now we're trying to hit our first stretch goal, and this is a big one because Karen Lewis Bonfiglio is designing. I don't know, she may be finished by now, but I know she's done all the penciling, the inking, and she's coloring it right now. But this really awesome poster that we definitely want to hit that stretch goal, so everyone, myself included, can get one of these posters. But it features every single artist that has a creation in the anthology, a version of their character as interpreted by Karen, and it's really cool from what I've seen, and I know when it's finished it's going to be just awesome. So definitely check that out. We want to hit that, so go and back that Kickstarter right now. But yeah, I want to kind of show you some of my process of coloring the cover to the comic book Werewolves and Unicorns and Other Mythical Creatures, the 100s, and so let's do that. We'll talk about how to make some money doing comics. Okay, so I am going to color the cover of the 100 Days of Making Comics Anthology, Werewolves and Unicorns and Other Mythical Creatures. And while I do that, I want to talk a little bit about why I'm doing this project, because it's not really a paid project. And if you know me, you know, I tend to do professional work, so as a result of that, I like to get paid for it. But this is a little bit of an exception, and I'm going to tell you kind of why I decided to do that, and why, you know, in what situations, maybe if you want to be a professional or whatever, why in some cases it may make sense to work on projects where you're not really getting paid. But so anyway, so this is for this project I did a 4-page story. I am also obviously doing the cover here, and I'm writing the foreword. Now in the foreword, I'm writing that now, and I'm going to get into, and I'll talk a little bit more in that about why I love this whole community so much. So just know that the community in general, that's a big part of why I'm doing this project, and I'll get a little more into that if you get the book and read the foreword and everything, or if you just listen to me on this channel and talking about it, you kind of probably get that impression. But you know, I love making comics. That is probably my biggest passion. The thing I like to draw the most or create the most is comics. But they don't always pay well. Now, there are exceptions. If you are a big name, you can demand more than what even the posted highest page rate for a typical, say, Marvel or DC Comics would be. It's kind of like if you've ever eaten at a Thai restaurant, they'll have like a little indicator like spiciness 1 through 5. there is a secret menu to most of these places. That 1 through 5 is kind of from the average person. But if if you're from Thailand and you're used to eating that spicy stuff, they know about the secret menu. So you can go in, because I said, well, let me get something around a 7 or 8, and they look at you and then they're like, are you sure? And then I'm like, no, I can handle it. But anyway, so even some of those highest posted things, if you are a big name, I mean, you can't demand this unless you're kind of one of those superstars, but that is one scenario where comic artists or writers do get paid more than the average person working for Marvel or DC. There are also some definite perks for working for some of the big companies. For one, you can usually demand more for the sales of your original artwork. Same with commissions. If it's really good as far as building an audience. Most people, if you follow like an artist who does regular work for like a Marvel or DC or whoever on YouTube, most of them have a pretty decent following because they follow them from that comic book. So you can kind of parlay your comic book work into other areas that may pay a little more and sort of build your brand and everything. So I'm not gonna, obviously I haven't done a lot of work. I haven't done any work for Marvel or DC, to be honest. I mean, the type of work I do in comics is a little different. It's not as glamorous, but it's a little easier to support a family on the kind of comic book work that I do. So the kind of work that I do is a lot of stuff for agencies, like product tie-ins, or for companies. There are companies that want sort of a kind of a comic book aesthetic or look to promote their companies, so they may want like a shorter, just an ad sort of in the form of a comic book. I also do a lot of PSAs or just these leave behinds. If you've ever went to like a school function, maybe there's somebody going there to teach or talk about a topic or whatever, and they want something cool that the kids can have and take home with them, whether it's a coloring book or sometimes a comic book. I mean, you've seen these type of things all over the place to promote products or whatever. Those can garner a lot more as far as what the typical page rate would be for a typical comic. Now, again, as I said before, it's not as glamorous, but I think that's what the big comic companies are banking on, because they know, the people, they love to make comics, and I love to make comics too, and so much to the point where, yes, in some ways I would do it for free, and a lot of people do, but I guess I have a problem with big companies just profiting off of my blood, sweat, and tears. So I usually turn down a lot of comic book projects that come my way, or maybe I don't turn them down, but maybe I just kind of price myself out of it, because I think it was an ad agency. I've just got a lot of stuff going on right now, and I just know how much time comic books take, and that's a big part of it. I'll get into that in a minute, but I know, do I really want to put all my personal projects aside and everything to work on this long comic book project, knowing that it probably, typically they're probably not going to want to pay that much. So I basically looked at a price range of what the biggest comic book companies out there, whoever was charging the most, and I just kind of went way over that, knowing that they probably wouldn't go for it because probably everyone else quoting them are way lower than that, and that's fine. If they came back to me and were willing to pay what I asked, well, that's good, because I'm at least getting pay a decent rate for what I'd be doing. But if not, that's okay, because I can kind of work on my own work. But I don't know, maybe they will come back and they will want me to do it, because it wasn't through your typical comic book company. It was through an ad agency, and it was a product tie-in with a series of video games. So, and there's money in games and everything. See, there's may not be the money in comics, but people love comics, and it's doing that comic book style stuff in other areas. Like all the, here's another thing, like the people who draw Superman or Spider-Man or whatever for t-shirt designs, like official licensed stuff, they're making probably more than, or even box art for the toys, things like that. Those guys are making more money, and gals are making more money typically than what you would be making, doing your standard page rate in comics. So we'll have to see. But the thing is, like I said, comics take a long time to put together. And I'll post a link to where you can see what some of the current at least within a year or so, with the current page rates for the big comic book companies and some of the smaller ones too. And you can kind of see, and you may look at that and you say, well, that's not so bad, but you really do have to consider how long does it take you to create a page, and then figure out, well, if I can do a page in this and they're paying this much, if I can do a page in this amount of time and they're paying this for a particular page, how long does it take me and everything? And then really factor out how much you're really making an hour. I mean, is it minimum wage? Because it might be. It might even be a little less. It just depends how fast you are. I mean, if you're Jack Kirby and if you're just banging out like 3 pages of pencil and inks a day, then maybe you can make it work. But I mean, today's comic artists, they spend so much time and so much detail. I mean, it's just amazing. Well, I mean, not everyone does. I mean, everyone has different styles and everything. Some people can have a quicker style or whatever, or just faster in general. But if you're taking a lot of time, you really need to figure that out, because I know Kevin Cross got in this situation where he had this big comic book project, and he committed to it and everything, and it just became the bane of his existence, because it just kept going. And of course there are changes and everything, but it just, I don't even want to know what he ended up making per hour on that, because I know it was far below minimum wage, and you don't want to get caught in that. Because the other thing that I'm totally against is when you commit to something and you don't see it through. So he had to see that project through, even though it was killing him, and I hate to see anyone get into that. So just to kind of know what you're getting into. So all this talk about why I believe that artists should be paid for their work and paid a decent rate, because it is a talent that not everyone else has. Not everyone else can do it. So I think it's important, and maybe I'm coming from a sense of privilege because I've been able to do this, but I really think, if you're doing comics and people are profiting off of that and everything, you should be able to, earn a decent amount from it. So having said all that, why would I commit to a project like the 100 Days of Making Comics, where this anthology, where I'm really not getting paid anything? It might be possible that we can make some money off of it. We are not getting paid from the Kickstarter that's going on right now, which you should definitely back if you haven't already, and there is a link in the description for that. But we're not getting money from this Kickstarter. We're getting books. The more the Kickstarter raises, the more books each creator gets, and then we can in turn around and sell those books. So we can make a little bit. I don't know how many books we'll be able to sell or how many books we're going to get and all that stuff. So chances are, with the amount of time put in, we're not really going to be making a profit or anything off of this. So why would I do it? Well, here's a number of reasons, and these are some of the reasons why, if you're thinking about doing something, an art project for free, when should you work for free? So it should be something that you're super passionate about. And many people are just passionate about comics in general, but you don't have to give your work away because of that. You could be working on your own project. So with this particular story, I more or less own the characters. I own the story. So yes, it is going to be published in the 100 Days of Making Comics, but after a year, I can then, if I want to take this comic and publish it in another anthology, get paid for it or whatever, or do whatever I want with it, I can. I can sell the original pages, and that's pretty much typical. So that's not, that's pretty normal, I guess, nowadays. It wasn't always, but nowadays. But anyway, it's a story that I didn't come up with the story, I'm adapting it, but this is a story that I've been wanting to adapt for a long time, and it just so happened that and I've tried to do it before, and it just didn't work, but it just happened to, the subject matter and everything work really well with this particular comic anthology. So that's part of it. It's a short story. It's only 4 pages, and what it really gave me a chance to do is just experiment. There was no mandate other than it has to be mythical creatures that has to somehow factor in, but that's pretty broad. So I could kind of tell the story I wanted. There wasn't anyone giving me a script or anything, or I wasn't following anyone else's guidelines. So I got to do a lot of experiment, not only with the story but the art as well. I experimented with a totally different style of art that I usually do, like compared to like my comic book Young and the Dead. So that's one of the reasons why I took it on. It just got me a chance to stretch my muscles and really do some things with comics that I hadn't done before. One of the other reasons why committed to doing this pro bono is no one's really earning a profit off of this. Now, this one's kind of tricky because in comics, especially indie comics, most people aren't going to make a profit off of it. But if you're working with a friend or something like that, or somebody hires you to do something, I mean, I really believe that you should both have sort of equal stakes in it. You should both have equal ownership of it if you're going to be doing this without getting paid, because the chances are that it may turn into a profitable, project are kind of slim. But not only do you have to have equal ownership, I think it's really important that both of you have that same love for the project. I mean, if you're just kind of doing this as a favor, I mean, that's up to you, but I really think if you're going to be putting your hard work into something like this, you have to really love it, and it has to be something that you really want to do. And I genuinely love this whole community, the 100 Days of Making Comics and everything. And like I said, I'm writing the foreword right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the book and everything, but just why, a little more on why I love doing this so much and why I'm willing to kind of give up my time to do this. And I have no complaints at all. I think a lot of people nowadays who are trying to kind of get people to work on their comic book project, or bring artists in who maybe trying to get them to work for free or whatever, they usually try to entice you with, well, this is going to be published and everything, it's going to get your name out there and people are going to see it. But nowadays you can self-publish, you can do all this stuff yourself, so there's really no reason to kind of fall into that trap, because working on somebody else's project, creating their dreams for them, you're going to have better luck just doing your own thing, the dream that you want to do, because that's going to show through. And when people see that, they're going to notice. They're going to say this. They can tell what is like just a hack job that you're kind of doing for somebody else, or what you really are passionate about doing it. So that's the big one as far as is it something you want to do for free? Is how much do you love it? How much joy are you going to get out of it? Okay, so there you have it. Some of my thoughts on how to earn a living making comics or doing comic book style artwork, maybe not the ways that you thought of before. But and if you guys know of other ways that you can turn your love of comic books or creating comics into some actual income, let me know in the comment section, because there are so many different ways, things I haven't even touched on right now, that people just aren't thinking about, because I think people are so hyper focused on, I want to work for the big two, or I want to work, for a major comic book publisher or whatever, that sometimes they tend to overlook some of these other avenues. So I'd like to know in the comment section, let me know. And once again, please, it's getting close. If you're watching this anytime close to when I'm putting this out, the Werewolves and Unicorns Anthology and Other Mythical Creatures, it's a mouthful, I know, but you don't have to say all that or type all that. All you have to do is click in the description to this video and check it out and consider backing it, because we want as many people to get this awesome project as possible, and I want you to get it. So go check that out, and I will see you guys later. That is all. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Serkworks on social media. Do you like making comics? Then go to Serkworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more. And best of all, it's totally free.